Hello again, my name's Sam, and I'm the guy that talks to you about Amazon DSP. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the top 5 mistakes that people make when they run Amazon DSP accounts. You can use this either if you're running Amazon DSP to audit your own accounts, you can use this if you have someone else running it to see if they're doing a good job, or even as an agency and you're auditing other people's accounts to win business. Here's what you should look for. 5 main things. Number 1, order structure. If you're not familiar with what an order is, it's essentially the Amazon DSP version of a campaign. At the order level, you basically set your intention, you would set your conversion tracking, you set your budgets. A lot of people either make too many orders or they make too few, and I think there's a perfect middle ground. I'll tell you exactly how to do that. So the best way to look at orders is you use these to determine your goal and your budget. How many orders you should have really depends on how many products you're selling and what your budget is. A really common mistake that I see is both agencies and brands alike, they create way too many orders and it's unnecessary. The problem with that is that within an order, Amazon will allocate the budget to favor what's working. But between orders, it's not going to do that unless you layer in a tech partner, which has an additional fee. But within an order, the goal is whatever's working best, that's going to get the budget. And you set the goal of the order to determine where the budget goes. If you set your overall Amazon DSP build into too many orders, you don't give Amazon the opportunity to allow budgets to flow in between them. So when you get too granular, it kind of defeats the purpose of the machine learning within Amazon DSP, just because it can't flow budget between orders. So if you have an order for every single product and every single targeting strategy, then essentially you're setting the budget and Amazon has no ability to favor what's working, and allowing it to do that's ultimately what's going to get you the best result. My recommendation is to run orders by funnel stage. If you break up orders by product, it basically means that if you have a number of products and you're spending a lot of money within Amazon DSP and you might have a budget per product, then that totally makes sense. But way too often I see brands that don't have a set budget per product, but they break up their orders by product. And then what they're missing out on is Amazon would put more money behind what's working, and it can't do it if your order structure is too granular. So the give and take with that is granular control versus optimization for performance. If you want really granular control over your budgets, you want to have more orders. If you want the best results possible regardless, then you combine them into fewer. My general recommendation is if you're spending a lot on Amazon DSP and you have a lot of different products, let's say you're spending $50,000, $100,000 a month, then it makes sense to break it up by product, or at least product category, and by funnel stage. If you're spending anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 a month, just break it up by funnel stage, otherwise the performance is going to be way worse. The other important thing to consider about orders is this is where you set your KPIs. So for a bottom funnel order, it's going to be either return on ad spend or total return on ad spend. And I'll mention this in a reel or another video, the difference between the two. Not going to cover it right now, but you can set return on ad spend or total return on ad spend. Versus the mid funnel, it's usually something like effective cost per detail page view, versus an awareness order is going to be for reach. So depending on what you set at the order level, it's going to optimize towards that KPI. So you're going to get the most money behind the high ROAS items if you set it there. You're going to get the lowest effective cost per detail page view in the mid funnel. And then for awareness, it's purely just how many people are seeing my ads. So in summary, don't make it too complicated. If you have budgets by product, break it out. If you have budgets by funnel stage, break it out. If you purely just want the most bang for your buck, combine it together and let Amazon do its thing. Don't overcomplicate it. Problem number 2, line item structure. There are a million ways you can separate your line items. And again, it's always a balance between combining them for efficiency and bid adjustment granularity. Whether you break out desktop and mobile or run them together, either option's fine. You used to have to keep them broken out, but now you can combine them. I don't really have a preference between the two, but what really does matter is making sure that they're separated by targeting strategy. So within, let's say, a bottom funnel order, retargeting versus loyalty. In a mid funnel order, contextual versus similar products. You want to make sure the line items are broken out by targeting strategy. Within that, it's inventory. You do not want to run on Amazon and off Amazon together in the same line item. The reason is because off Amazon is way cheaper, yet it's generally less effective. And when you run them together, Amazon will 9 times out of 10 favor the off Amazon placements because they like it when off Amazon traffic gets driven to Amazon for obvious reasons. So you want to break them out bid differently, and make sure that the budget is going to what's most effective. The last thing is making sure that the line items are broken out by product. There are exceptions where it makes sense to run multiple products within a line item if they have the same, if you're running a cross-selling campaign, there are exceptions, right? But generally speaking, you want one parent ASIN per line item. Running them together makes the data really confusing. You can adjust the creative weights, sure, but it's much cleaner if you break out your line items by product and don't combine everything together. Number 3, inventory and bidding strategy. This is a big one because I see people make this mistake all the time and they don't even know they're making a mistake. First thing to look at, use inventory reports. It might look like on the front end that, oh yeah, I have half my budget going to O&O and half my budget going to off Amazon. When you look at your inventory reports, that tells you where your money's actually going. Another common thing is, sure, half your budget is going to Amazon, half's going off. But if you look at the viewability rates within inventory, usually it's like 95% of my ads off Amazon are viewable and only 7% are viewable on Amazon. So you're wasting 93% of the impressions that you're showing on Amazon. So check your inventory reports, set viewability minimums, and make sure that you're bidding based on where the ads are showing. Simply put, on Amazon, higher bid. Off Amazon, lower bid. Higher funnel, lower bid. Lower funnel, higher bid. Pretty simple. You pick the numbers, but that's the way it works. Number 4, viewability and viewability minimums. This is maybe the most common mistake I see and the most detrimental one. Viewability is exactly what it sounds like. What percentage of the time are your ads actually visible? You get charged whether they're visible or not. So imagine you're on an Amazon product detail page or you're on ESPN.com. There are ads loading at the bottom of the screen that you never see, but that person is still getting charged for them. So you want to make sure that the highest percentage possible of the ads that you're paying for are actually being seen. A common mistake is set a low bid, get a low CPM. The agency or whoever will brag about how I got 1 million impressions and it was 30 cents an impression, like how impressive. But then 1% of them were actually viewable on anybody's screen because they bid too low. Sometimes it's done on purpose to inflate results due to the attribution models within Amazon DSP. Other times it's completely an accident. But this is something to look for in your own accounts, in your agency's accounts, and in your competitors' accounts. I will say that 9 out of 10 times I audit an Amazon DSP account, they have a viewability issue. When you zoom out, not always. At the order level or at the advertiser level, it might say it's 80%. But then you click into an order, you go to an inventory report, and their actual on Amazon viewability rate is 7%. And I say that because I looked at one yesterday and it was 7%. You're wasting a lot of money. You need to look into this no matter what. Number 5, targeting the wrong audiences. This sounds basic. It's like bidding on the wrong terms on the PPC side. But you would be surprised how often people are overly reliant on Amazon's pre-curated audience. Amazon has, I guess, like 16,000 currently. By the time this video airs, it might be 17,000. A ton of pre-created audiences. Some of them use Amazon's data, other ones use third-party data. Regardless, it's a little bit of a black box. Third-party audiences are input into Amazon from other platforms like Oracle or wherever it is. The whole benefit in using Amazon DSP is that you can tap into Amazon's first-party data. If you're using third-party audiences, you really don't know where this data is coming from, you might as well use Trade Desk at that point. So I don't usually touch them. Lifestyle and in-market audiences can be really valuable. However, you're trusting that Amazon is categorizing these people correctly. Using custom audiences, you have a lot more control over identifying who exactly it is that your target audience is and how to reach them. So as an example, I can target let's say I'm looking to target a more senior demographic, right? I can either trust Amazon that it's categorizing people correctly and this is a senior demographic based on a demographic, pre-created audience, or I can create a list of ASINs that I know only my target audience is ultimately looking at and buying, and I can make my own audience. So I would say 9 out of 10 times, it's best to just use custom audiences. If your goal is scale, if your goal is reach, if you're not as much concerned about efficiency because you have big budgets and you want to get your name out there, they can be super valuable. But start with custom audiences, create your own version of what these in-market and lifestyle audiences are supposed to be, test them out, and then beyond that, feel free to experiment with in-market and lifestyle audiences. But I will say that you can do the best job by doing custom audiences all the time. The last thing I'll say in terms of custom audiences is the windows. So when you create an audience, you check the boxes, whether it's product view, product purchase, similar product view, and then you have a number, and that's a look back. How many days? Another very common mistake is basically they have a gold standard of like, we do a 30-day look back and a 90-day purchase negation, and they roll that out across the board. But every product's different. You think about how long do you think about a purchase that costs you $500 versus $10? Probably a different amount of time. So you think about, if I'm running ads for a product that costs $7, my look back window is going to be a week or less, because nobody's thinking about a very cheap product for a month. They're just not. They're going to buy it or they're not. If my product costs several $100s, it's going to take a few touch points. I'm going to need to potentially think about this for a lot of factors here, but it might take up to a month or 2 months for me to really make the decision on this product. So you need to make sure that your retargeting windows are based on your price point and based on your decision cycle. If you don't want to guess, the way that you can figure this out is through AMC, and it'll tell you basically what is the average time between a person's initial view of your product and their actual purchase. Use that to guide your look back windows for things like retargeting audiences. Don't just roll out the same number across the board. It's lazy. Anyways, thanks for listening. I will get off my soapbox for the time being. If you have any additional questions, comment. I'll answer it eventually. Grab some time with me. There's probably a link somewhere down here in the description. Find me on LinkedIn, Sam Lee, or visit triviumco.com. Reach out that way, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Adios.